Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a video on Chardonnay. I thought it would just be interesting to compare and contrast a number of Chardonnay because I just find these comparative tastings really useful. Not that we're comparing in terms of who's better, but it's really neat to try different styles of wines and to just, I find it much easier to understand wines when I'm comparing. In it and by itself, almost every wine is really good, but compared to what? And this is not a matter of saying which is better, but which one is more suited to your palate, and also just understanding the differences in the taste of different types of wine, even though you have the same grape varietal. I believe Chardonnay is a very good grape to do this with because Chardonnay is easily malleable grape, as they would talk about. So first of all, let's go to the basics. So Chardonnay, the grape itself is green skinned and it is used for white wines. So going back to really basics, when we have grapes that are green skinned, generally those are produced white wines. When they're dark skinned grapes, generally the skins are kept on the grape during the fermenting process, and that gives the colorization of the wine, and that's how you produce red wines. One of the reasons Chardonnay grape is so popular is because it is a very neutral grape and a very well malleable grape. So that gives it that has a lot of interest for winemakers because winemakers can put their stamp on this grape. So in general, Chardonnay grows quite well. The yields are actually pretty good for Chardonnay, and it grows in a variety of different terroir and environments. And likewise, it's what we talk when we talk about malleable, it picks up the terroir very nicely, and it's a neutral grape. So it's kind of a blank slate or a blank palette, and as winemakers, they can be artists and kind of create it. So that's why people are so interested in Chardonnay. And this conception that Chardonnay must be oaky is not true. That's just stylistically what California wines were doing at a certain point. But that's even not true today because there are some wines in California that are not as oaked, have different styles. So that's the interesting thing about Chardonnay grape. It has a varied amount of things, and there's generally speaking not a one taste profile that is common among all varieties. In general, Chardonnay is medium to light bodied and has really good acidity with kind of green apple, plum, pear things, flavors. In warm locations like Australia and New Zealand, you may get more like citrus, peach, and melon flavors. In the really warm, hot regions like California, you might have more tropical fruits like bananas and mangoes. And then wines that have gone through malolactic fermentation might have a little bit softer acidity and fruit flavors, along with a buttery mouthfeel and hazelnut notes. And I'm not even going to try to pretend that I understand how to explain malolactic fermentation on a very deep level, so that's for another day. Chardonnay is also a very important grape in the blending of a lot of sparkling wines, including champagne. And again, I think one of the reasons, it's got some neutrality in terms of the taste. It's not going to be too spicy or too one way or another. It's got good acidity, which you need for the freshness of champagne, and it adds some citrusy elements, fruit elements that are in there, and it's also, you know, a grape type that's fairly easy to grow, and so you always will have some of that for your blend for champagne. So today we're going to compare and contrast three different wines. So on the left here I have a BC winery called Little Engine, and it is their platinum Chardonnay that's only available to their exclusive wine club members. I don't even know the price of it. I would say it's probably around $80. And I was fortunate that one of my friends is a club member and they got this wine, so they gave it to me and I get to taste it. The second wine is a wine that I've recommended that I've really wanted to taste for many months now. It is out of California and specifically out of the Santa Maria Valley. It is the Cambria 2021 Katherine's Vineyard. This is priced around $38. Sometimes it's on sale for a couple of dollars off. It's 90-point Wine Spectator rating. So to me, I've always wanted to taste this wine and do a review on it because I think it provides great value. It's very hard to find like really high rated Chardonnay from California that's not really expensive. And the last wine we're having here is the new vintage of 2022 vintage of their estate cuvee from Blue Mountain. And Blue Mountain, as viewers may know, is a winery that I really like in BC. I think they make some of the best Pinot Noir and Chardonnay grapes wines in BC. I like the idea that they are still family owned, and I also like the idea that they've kept prices fairly reasonable. I think their wine retails around $30. So I just wanted to try different price ranges, and also I wanted to try, I know that stylistically the Little Engine and the Blue Mountain are different in terms of their taste profile, so I just wanted to try them together. I'm going to taste these wines from order of least expensive to most expensive. I will let you know that I did open them yesterday with some friends, had some opinions from them, and then I stored it overnight in the refrigerator, and I'm drinking it again right now. So let's start with the Blue Mountain Chardonnay. I've had this wine many times before. It is under $30, which is a really nice price point. They are going to do, I believe they also have a reserve Chardonnay, which is a little more expensive, but not ridiculous. And again, I really like the idea that they've kept wines affordable. The quality of the wines to me has always been very good. They're not readily available in BC liquor stores. You do have to book with them online at their winery, although sometimes you'll see them in local specialty stores. So with the Chardonnay, the vines are about 16 to 33 years of age, which I think is actually very good for BC. I don't think BC can support the terroir, and the soil can support like 90-year-old vines. So that's about right, 16 to 33. You want a little bit age on the wines for complexity. All the fruit is hand harvested and whole cluster pressed. It's barrel fermented and aged 14 months in new to 3-year-old French oak barrels. And I think to me, it's kind of a stylistically just a really good value Chardonnay. And I've always described it as a peaches and cream Chardonnay. So let's have a taste and smell of it. So on the color, it's got a very nice hue to it. It's not too light, not too dark. It's a brand new wine, 2022, but it's got nice coloration on it. Kind of a hay yellow color, but a straw hay yellow color, so I like that. On the smell, it's got some melons. I think it's got some tropical fruit, a light toastiness. I wouldn't say it's overly oaked, but it's got a little bit of mild oak on this. But the fruit really comes through on this wine. I can kind of feel my mouth already watering, so the acidity level is there and the freshness. But it does have almost like a licorice type or a herb, a mint component to this at the end, like almost like a licorice herb to it at the end of the smell on this. So this is not a light wine. I would say on the taste profile, it's not heavy in terms of oak. It's got medium acidity. It's very savory in terms of the taste profile. I think I've got a little bit of licorice on the end of this for some reason. I see melons, but not really pronounced. But I think it's a very food-friendly type wine. I quite like it. It's kind of in the middle of the road Chardonnay. It's not offensive. It's not going to be tough for people to accept, but it's not over oaked either. So I quite like this. I'm going to give it 88 points on this wine, but I think it's quite a nice wine, especially at the price point. The quality to price ratio is really nice. It is very young, so I'd like to maybe taste it again in 3 or 4 years when it's got a little bit more meat to it. I do believe that it'll kind of develop a little bit more right now, but it's quite a young wine at this point, and I think it probably would improve with age. The next wine we're going to try is the Cambria 2021 Chardonnay from their Katherine's Vineyard. So Cambria is a pioneer in the winemaking region of the Santa Maria Valley, and the wine represents their flagship wine. It is actually a single vineyard wine. They're very into sustainable farming, and so this was 90-point Wine Spectator. It's around just under $40 before taxes in BC. It was originally founded in 1986 by Barbara Banke and Jess Jackson, and they ferment in both stainless steel and barrels. And again, what I like about this is it's not really that expensive for a quality that it has. 90-point Wine Spectator. So the other thing is that it's nice to have a little rating to have kind of a benchmark about what other people think about this wine. So I would say this is similar to the Blue Mountain, but that extra year of age I think has really helped it in terms of the balance of the wine. A little bit more depth of flavor, a little bit more butteriness in this wine. Really well made wine, I think. Yeah, it's very buttery, a little bit more mature, and I think that's where the Blue Mountain is a little bit young, and that little extra age of a year might help it a little bit. This is a brand new bottling of this wine, so it's maybe got a little bottle shock, it's traveled a bit, but I think it needs a little bit more time to really get to its peak. This wine is really a mature wine that's really really well balanced, really well made. So again, for me, Chardonnay is never really a sipping wine. It really needs food. So I always try to keep that in mind when I'm tasting these type of wines. As a sipping wine, to me, they're not that pleasurable. I try to figure out how they would taste with food or with cheese, and I think this would go really well with food and cheese. I see the butteriness in the taste. I see the texture, the butteriness in the texture of it. I see the melons. I see that integrated fruit, a little bit of tropical fruits in it, citrusy elements like lemon. I don't see anything that's really jagged at all. It's very smooth, very balanced. I think I agree with the 90-point rating from Wine Spectator. I'll let you know it's gotten better. Actually, I think when we first tasted it, I don't think it was as ready to drink as compared to the Blue Mountain. I thought the Blue Mountain on first opening probably tasted the best of the three wines, but now this wine I think has really settled in with a little bit of aeration and is doing much better. So really balanced wine, and again, I love the price on this wine. The last wine we have is the Little Engine, and let's see the vintage, 2017. So it's got a tremendous amount of age with this. This is their Platinum Chardonnay. Little Engine is a fairly new winery in BC. Again, each vineyard is hand harvested with grapes cooled overnight. Most lots are whole cluster pressed, fermented 100% in French oak barrels, and aged for 17 months. And the final blend is composed of 90% in new French oak, and then the balance in second and third fill barrels. So a lot of barrel aging on this wine. The color, because it's 2017, is a little bit darker than the other wines. And on the smell, you can really smell the oak on this. Lots of butter, lots of oak. Some friends described it as almost like having popcorn, like popcorn with butter on it in the movies. It's kind of a replacement if you had this bottle of wine before you. So I really like the compare and contrast of the styles. So if I had to talk about these three wines, I would say if people depend on your oak preference, the least oaky of these wines would be the Blue Mountain. Then in the middle would be the Cambria, and then the most oaky of these wines would be the Little Engine. Yeah, so this is very toasty oak. I think actually it's smelling a lot better than when I first had it. When I first opened it, I thought it was a little bit unbalanced, but now with a little bit more aeration, I think it's that toast, that butteriness is really coming out of this wine, so it's quite nice. Yeah, you get a real, so with this wine, as compare and contrast to the other wines, you get the buttery part of this, for sure, on the taste of this wine. You don't get as much fruit, so the fruit actually is a little bit secondary to the buttery texture of this wine. So you can feel that vanilla buttery type presence. So you don't have the more kind of herb type aromas and aftertaste with the Blue Mountain. You don't have as strong the fruit taste, kind of the citrusy elements that you do with the Cambria wine. So to me, it's a very smooth wine, very buttery. It's a good wine too. So I'm gonna give this also 88 points. I think it's a good wine also. And again, it's just when we talk about scores, we're talking about my personal preference. You know, Chardonnay, I'm not a big white wine drinker, so I think those people that like Chardonnay will probably rate all of these wines a bit higher. But I think all of them have great quality. And again, it's not really about the winner, the loser, that type of stuff. It's about personal preference. I like all of them. I don't really want to choose a winner here because I like all of them for different reasons. I love the Blue Mountain because I think it's really great value for the price. And I love that type of more balanced style, not as oaky. I really like that cleanness of the taste. I like the Cambria because, again, I think it's the most kind of mature of the two at this of the three wines at this point. It's the most drinkable at this point, and it's really a delicious wine and rated. It's from California and it's got a 90-point Wine Spectator rating and a fairly affordable price. I like the Little Engine. It's got a lot of oak, a lot of butter on this wine, really smooth in terms of the texture. You know, very quite a good intensity of flavors. So I think all of them I quite like, and you know, I wouldn't have a problem with drinking any of these wines. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.